Creepy facts about Netflix's The Watcher. Hey guys, today we're going to list the creepy facts about Netflix's The Watcher. Let's get right into it. Number 1. The Watcher scared a family so much they never moved into their dream home. The incident occurred at 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. Derek and Maria Broaddus, along with their 3 children, began renovating their new suburban dream home in June 2014, as Weidman documented. 3 days after closing, they began receiving mail indicating that a watcher who had kept an eye on the house for generations was also keeping an eye on their family. The first letter detailed their move and speculated that they had 3 children, exulting in the idea of the house having young blood. The Broadduses immediately called the police and also asked the original owners, John and Andrea Woods, if they knew anything about the Watcher. The Woods had only received one message before leaving, and they'd been in the house for 23 years. All of their neighbors were made suspects. The harassment persisted. The Watcher appeared to continue his surveillance while hinting that something was in the walls after a sign in the backyard was ripped out overnight. The letters addressed the children by name bemoaned changes to the house and made the Broadduses nervous as they watched neighbors like the Langfords and wondered if the Watcher intended to harm them. However, by the end of the year, police had no leads. Nonetheless, the Watcher continued to send increasingly erratic messages. Instead of moving in, the Broadduses attempted to sell the house. Number 2. The story upended a community and has become urban legend. The Broadduses also filed a legal complaint against the Woods for failing to disclose the single letter they received. And eventually, the story spread and went viral, with people all over the internet speculating about what really happened, while residents in the neighborhood became concerned. According to The Cut, news trucks camped out at the house, and the Broadduses received more than 300 media requests. The family's personal investigation continued, and police continued to look into other people based on DNA evidence in the letters and other documents. However, the focus shifted to the family, with some wondering if the Broadduses were the instigators and placing the family under additional scrutiny. When the Broadduses attempted to unload the house several times, it became a community issue. The Cut story concluded, "The Watcher had expressed a desire to protect the boulevard from change, but instead it had been torn apart. A renter was discovered in 2017, and the letters resumed after a 2.5-year hiatus, reviving the investigation but yielding no satisfactory results. 5 years after the ordeal began, the Broaddus family was able to sell the 1905 Dutch colonial home to Andrew and Alison Carr at a $400,000 loss. The story lives on as New Jersey's creepiest urban legend. Number 3. The letters did call the kids young blood and say other creepy things included in the show. The writers of The Watcher stayed fairly close to the text of the real-life letters. Why would they, given that the letters were as terrifying as any fictional horror story? In the show, the letter writer referred to the family's children as young blood and expressed delight that the family was bringing them to 657 Boulevard and The Watcher. One letter said, "Will the young blood play in the basement? Or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream." The Watcher also chastised the homeowners for making changes or improvements to the century-old house, a cause championed by neighbors in the Netflix show. Number 4. DNA evidence revealed it was probably a woman who licked the envelopes. A police detective tells the Brannocks in the series that the DNA on the envelope lacked the Y chromosome, indicating that it was most likely licked by a woman. The plot twist was as significant in real life as it was in the Netflix series. When investigators discovered the evidence, it called into question certain male neighbors' theories and suspicions. So, are there any plausible female suspects? Maria Broaddus was ruled out, as was a female neighbor who had been suspected by one detective. According to Reeves Weidman of New York Magazine, police took voluntary DNA samples from some neighbors in 2018, but no one who provided a sample was a match. Number 5. There really was a creepy, straight-laced father in Westfield who murdered his whole family. The Watcher's character, John Graff, was inspired by a real-life mass murderer who lived in Westfield decades before the Watcher began sending letters. In 1965, John List, a devout, proper accountant and Sunday school teacher, moved his family to a mansion they couldn't afford. When his career failures caused the family to go bankrupt and lose their home, John List convinced himself that it would be better to kill his entire family: Mother Alma, wife Helen, and children Patricia, John, and Frederick. while they were still good Christians and would go to heaven, rather than have to live in poverty, which he saw as sinful. List was living off money from his mother, sat at the train station all day, too embarrassed to admit he'd lost his job, and became increasingly concerned about the behavior of his daughter Patricia and his wife Helen, according to The Watcher. However, the show's creators also made changes to better suit their story. The character is never caught in the series, and the fictional killings, which are covered up by the police, take place in the 1990s in the same house where the Broaddus would later live. Graf was also given only 2 children on the show, rather than 3. It's also safe to assume List never received any Watcher letters, despite leaving a chilling confession letter for investigators to discover a month later. That's all for today, and we'll be sure to catch you all in the next one.